Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our second series of the evening set to get underway. We've got Team eHUG going up against Team Complexity, our final opening round matchup here for Phase 2 of the Summit 3, presented by Gigabyte. I'm Zyori. He's KotLGuy. How you doing, my man?
Feeling pretty good. Felt like it was quite a while since we were last here casting.
I know. First series was a long one. We had a little 30-minute, not delay, but this match was postponed from the normal start time, so even got started a little additionally later, but hey, we're starting on time, and that's really what's important, or what's important, rather. Complexity versus eHUG. We're going to get into the draft in a second. There's no bets, though. What are the odds looking like here? Is this a coin flip? What are we thinking?
I think it's a coin flip chance. I mean, it's Team Stand-In taking on Team Stand-In. These two teams, they're like a foster home to a lot of the NA community.
Oh, well.
I mean, there is some consistency, of course, with Complexity Gaming. You got your Swindle Melons, along with Z-Freak. They're probably the longest roster, or longest members of the Dota 2 Complexity roster. They recently did bring in Ziz, who has been their core player. He's done nice work. And then now they have Riser and Squee as their two more recent stand-ins. Previous history, they've had like Trouf and Yawar kind of stepping in a bit. MJW for eHUG. Okay, sorry, I mixed up in two teams. That's the other thing, is these two teams very similar. They have even the same freaking color scheme, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Red, black, and white. Anyways, and then for eHUG, I like this because we got, well, the standard MJW and Infinity. You know, you got to remember, before this eHUG group, they were Infinity +4, and they battled their way through an eHUG tournament to become eHUG. But before that, the original eHUG squad had a certain Pandago who is now standing in for the new eHUG. So a lot of fun there. And then, of course, on top of it, we have a new stand-in in Sorrow. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information about him. And then they also have Crit, another stand-in. This guy is a renegade, if you will. He's been on all sorts of freaking teams, man. All over the place. MYM, he was on Root Gaming, I think, most recent. And I don't know what the whole situation is with there. They now have Fluff and stuff on their squad. I don't know if he replaced them. I don't know if it was a kicking. I don't know if it was a trading. But suddenly, Crit is now a part of eHUG, and well, we'll have to find out which of these two hodgepodge of a roster squads are going to be able to duke it out and hopefully battle their way to here at the Summit 3 LAN Final.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I had to change ingest servers here, so I'm getting all of our tech stuff sorted out. But
yeah.
Wisp picked up early for Team eHUG. This guy, he's been hit or miss. Of course, very popular in the Dota meta in general, but in NA, it seems like Wisp is not really that go-to support for a lot of teams. And excited to see what eHUG have in mind here. They'll grab the Juggernaut, probably your Wisp buddy, and oh, it's a scary one.
I just feel like maybe what it is, and the reason we don't see a lot of Wisp in the America scene, is there's just not as many Wisp players. There's a couple of them, but I mean, even looking at eHUG's group right now, Pandago is usually more of a support player, which it's funny to actually see. He's actually even in the drafting captain's chair. And of course, they could be discussing everything with each other and making a mutual decision, but you know, he's there for now. They're standing, actually taking control. He's a support player, but I don't think he's a big Wisp player. So maybe Crit, I believe, who also plays a support position, usually is going to be the Wisp player. But anyways, that's the reason why I feel like we don't see Wisp quite as often. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. All right, well, fair enough. Complexity do end up grabbing Bristleback to go with their Lion as the opener here. So big beefcake there for the front lines. Probably your off-laner. Z-Freak is one of those players that I always want to keep an eye out for when I'm watching Complexity, though. He tends to play the 4 position, but he does it a little different. He loves to take heroes that aren't normally in the jungle and bring them there. He loves to do that position 4 Queen of Pain. He's probably on this Spirit Breaker, and he does have that like Owie 2000 EGM kind of play style where this guy, although labeled a support, he will find some farm. And maybe not a traditional support by most definitions.
Z-Freak, when I think of Z-Freak, I think of Skywrath Mage. They actually banned it out in this game, but I know for a fact that he has the most kills in one Dota 2 match as Skywrath Mage, just because of that crazy Canada Cup match they had with Complexity, or no, sorry, with Team Fire at the time. It was just ridiculous. He must have like, I think 32 or 33 kills that game. It was just a bloodbath of a match. So yeah, now they get the Spirit Breaker. A lot of beastly badasses here between the Bristleback and the Spirit Breaker. So good frontliners and being able to close the gap. And if they wanted to isolate and punish the Wisp, they can certainly do it. But now they need to kind of bring together the backliners, an additional support along with some late game potential.
So, okay, stream is all good and ready to rock and roll. Always harder to troubleshoot when you're on that 2-minute delay. So glad we're all set. Sorry about that, folks. Had a little ingest issue, but we should be smooth sailing from this point forward. Now back to the Dota. Bane. Oh, man. Anthropos for Team eHUG. I feel like we never see this guy. Still a pretty good hero, though. Goes through the BKB with that ultimate, so you've got a big disable there. Nightmare, you can disable 2 people at once. You can mess up the mid lane with your Enfeeble early on. I think actually a really good roaming hero. And to be honest, I'm not sure why he's fallen off so much. Not a premier support, not quite on the same level as your Lion, but still very strong.
His heyday used to be with like him and Mirana being side by side and running around and being a real nuisance. But he has slowly been able to resurface here. He still has tremendous zoning potential against the offlaner. And it certainly doesn't hurt to have the sleep against the Spirit Breaker. He comes charging in, you just say, whoa, 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 you go ahead and take a nap right there. You're not gonna break through these front lines and try to get to our little fragile backstaff here. So he definitely has plenty of CC, plenty of lockdown, as you pointed out. Great way to work through the BKB disables. And look at this, a quick fire back from Complexity. They're gonna go a bit more greedy with their secondary support. So this is a pretty greedy lineup already for them. Even Lion, it's like you want to get him a Blink Dagger eventually. But now Enigma, I guess he feels comfortable. You know, you're not going to be going against a Vengeful Spirit, and Wisp can't really stop you from black holing. Bane could, but, you know...
That's a tall order there.
That's a tall order, yeah. So, good team fight coming out here for Complexity, and they're thinking they can get away with a good early jungle start. And that's a good, you know, because they're anticipating this Wisp is probably going to be set up in a dual lane setup and can't really go around roaming.
Well, this is like team offlaner for Complexity here. They don't really have a true carry, and that is a little bit of a cause for concern. They do have some pushing power with the Enigma, but already I think eHUG will have the carry advantage depending on what they choose with their final hero. What do Complexity want to do here with the lane? Something is just telling me this will be an off-lane Enigma with more of a core bristle either in the safe lane or some kind of a mid-roll with a +1, but I'm not really sure. I'm almost positive I saw Complexity do an off-lane Enigma at least once at some point in the past. So
10 seconds
one of few teams that will employ that strategy, albeit rather rare.
It's something. I feel like it takes... Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I feel like it takes that special kind of a player to be able to do something like an off-lane Enigma, and maybe they do have that kind of a player.
It just feels like a waste of the hero to me a little bit, because he farms so well in the jungle. He does fine in the off-lane, but yeah, dire side jungle, that's got to be a lot to pass up. But they could also put Bristle in the off-lane. They could also put Spirit Breaker in the off-lane. Only time will tell. A couple of big, beefy cores banned out from the final on both sides. Complexity take out Medusa, and Team eHUG, well, they ban out the Storm Spirit.
Interesting. PL has been ignored and has slowly become one of the more late-game potential kind of pickups here. We'll see if it's something they do consider. It's just no natural Wisp, you know, combo, really. I mean, yeah, you can do work with Jug, but it's not the easiest to work with. You know, Spin can throw you off, Omni Slash can throw you off, and you're just kind of like sitting there like, I want to help you out, but I really can't. So I'm interested to see what this fifth pick could be. Wagering it will be the mid laner. It's got to be someone who could work still. Is it going to be a PA? Is it still going to be... Well, then they're lackluster. Yeah, I don't know. Tiny's also still there, so I guess why not, right?
Tiny. Yeah, they could do safe lane Jug, Tiny Wisp mid. That could work.
The snot from Bristleback could be used effectively against him, though. Kites him a bit, lowers his armor, which he could have
Could this be a CK game? Complexity don't really have much AoE clear.
I think Chaos Knight is just one of the most badass-looking heroes in the game.
Well, he certainly has the looks. But this is going to be the Tiny.
Okay,
so,
it's the Tiny.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bristle. Tiny will inevitably have to get a BKB at some point this game. I think there's no doubt about that.
Okay.
But always a good pairing, and now eHUG really have the late game secured. Jug, Tiny with a Wisp, and even a Bat Rider at that. They're going to have no problems if this game goes on for over an hour. Complexity, on the other hand, they're going to get out carried. So I feel like this pick here needs to be something that either gives them some really strong lane presence, a really good mid-game teamfight presence, or something that can push really effectively so they can take advantage of this slightly weaker early game squad that eHUG has put together.
Yeah, I actually really like the draft here from eHUG. MJW is a player, man. He does amazing off lane work, and I think he's a very underrated player, and he's going to have a Batrider to work with. This Wisp Tiny should be good. I'm pretty confident it's crit on the Wisp, and if I remember correctly, he has a really nice Wisp. I would assume Infinity is going to be then the Tiny, and we know he can do some serious work in the mid lane. But now Complexity have the tough task of going against it and what they need to do to prevent them from really going off. If they want to go mid laner here, Viper could be something that could kite the Tiny a bit, and it will be picked up.
Viper. I like the choice here. This is a great lane dominator, of course. You mentioned kiting Tiny. That's going to be really key this game. But easier said than done. I think this Complexity draft will certainly be a little more difficult to execute with. And they got to make some plays happen early on. This is not one of those games where they can sit back and rest on their laurels, which is something Complexity has done in the past. I feel like every time you and I have cast this team, usually feels like they dominate early. Mid-game, all right, we're winning. Let's just sit back and farm. They give the other team a little too much room, and then before you know it, they're on the back foot. That's something they need to be careful.
Sometimes they do end up. I think I could have swore I've seen a Complexity game where they got up to like a 40K net worth lead, and they're like, okay, we will end it now. And I'm like, does it really need to go this far?
Yeah, it's something that they definitely have.
We'll see. But again, this is also a squad that has changed up their roster quite a bit, and that could have been just an old play style, and they're changing things quite a bit here. And well, they do have Swindlemelons back. You know, fun little tidbit. Swindlemelons actually just came back into the States like, what, an hour or two ago from his Han tour job.
Oh, the Han tour. Hopefully he took some notes there in Thailand, checking out the Han meta.
You know what? He looked like he was having a pretty good time. You know, the production at the start was definitely a bit questionable, but I mean, you got to know for sure. I mean, from your All-Stars time that maybe you don't always get offered the best production
It
setup.
seems like an upgrade from past Han tours, though, I think, to say the least.
Well,
I'm not sure. What was Swindle there just as a VIP guest? Was he casting, or was he just kind of
There was
hanging
definitely, like, in between game bits between him and their manager Beef, and
Okay. All right. Very cool.
But he's got to get back to Dota now. It's time to play with the big boys.
This is not Armadon.
Play with the big boys here.
Oh my! Hopefully
Han Tour, that's all cute. This is the summit, baby.
This is the big stuff. This is
the big stuff.
Thought that Han Tour prize pool was big. Yeah, well, this is the Summit 3, so let's get serious here. Radiant side, Team eHUG. It's going to be Pandago here on the Bane Elemental. That's Infinity on the safe lane Jug. Crit. He'll be here on the Wisp. He'll be joining Sorrow, their stand-in player here, I think in the place of where Trout used to be on the tiny mid, and then the off lane. Hey, we've got MJW. He's here on the Batrider, one hero that he's very comfortable with.
That is interesting to see. I mean, I don't know much about Sorrow. I already admitted that. Sorry, Sorrow. But apparently he is a big tiny player, and him and Crit looking to get it done. You got to have that special connection, your peanut butter, your jelly between your tiny and Wisp that, you can't find that synergy everywhere. So they're going to make it work here for now. But yeah, Dire side. Okay, we got Complexity up in the top lane. We got Ziz. He's going to be playing your Viper. That means Adrian Moore's probably watching the stream. We also got Squee.
She's in chat already with the pom-poms.
I didn't even have to look. Squee, he's going to be playing the Lion over in that jungle. We got Riser trying to channel his inner Zai, doing that jungle Dire side Enigma. Along the bottom, we got Z-Freak, who's going to be playing your Spirit Breaker. And finally, mid lane, Swindlemelons. He's playing your Bristleback. And this is not the first time I've seen a Bristleback go toe-to-toe with the Wisp Tiny and have it work out for him.
Yeah, one of the tankier heroes, of course, and if he can turn his back, it can work out quite nicely. The Quill Sprays are also very difficult for the Wisp early on. As we know all too well, Wisp is a 0 armor starting hero, so it's tricky early on. The Bristle can really put out a lot of damage, and once the Wisp dies, Tiny all of a sudden becomes a lot less scary. That overcharge is really what allows him to spam out all those spells and, of course, get that boxing glove on and ready to swing some punches. So laning phase for Complexity, I think pretty decent, a little more efficient with the Enigma in the jungle, so Riser will open things up a little bit for his team. I feel like the make it or break it here will be Swindle. Z-Freak is already doing okay in the off lane, getting some good experience. Not finding too many last hits, but already level 2. Swindle, if he can find a kill in a 1v2, that would be amazing, but of course he really just needs to not die and make sure he gets decent farm, which so far he's doing quite well, tied as the last hit leader.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you're rolling with the Wisp Tiny mid lane, I'd imagine that you're looking to make kills happen. You want to be able to just kind of catch him off guard, surprise. The reason this duo works out so well is you can just easily toss the Wisp in there. He's got the spirits. If you time it out appropriately, when the spirits explode, it's just a tremendous amount of instant burst. But against a hero like Bristleback, he's so fat and tanky, he'll just eat it all and then even send that damage right back with those quills. So it's just too risky. And it looks like the fallback plan is this Wisp stacking up the side camps, something that they can look to farm, in the near future.
Yeah, that's always the way you want to do it. Already a triple stack here at the big camp, and looks like a triple stack here at the small camp. So Tiny already has quite a bit to retreat to in it. 2.5 minutes. This is pretty impressive stacking work from Crit, I have to say. This is great news, and Good thing about those camps on the Radiant side is there's really a low risk of them getting invaded, especially with a lineup like this, Enigma in the jungle. You know they'll be safe, and they can just rest there, waiting for Tiny's take.
Riser is just going to do like a YouTube perfect jungle here with his Enigma. He's on good time, Soul Ring for almost level 5 before even 3 minutes in. He's just working with these two camps. The advantage of this Dire side, just being able to break down those trees, and you can go from one to the other, and if you keep them stacked, it's just an abundance of money. And there they both spawn again, and he's going to get to work with it. So, big stuff for him.
So MJW, okay, so I guess he'll take the big camp here. We've seen this pretty commonly, whether it's a Shadow Fiend or a Tiny, some sort of a carry mid that has to retreat to these stacks to really accelerate that farm. And when you have an off-lane Bat Rider, sharing is caring. And it seems they are ready to be efficient and give Bat Rider the first big stack. Haven't checked in on him too much. Oh, he'll go for both of them here, or at least soften up the medium camp. He is level 3, just brown boots for now, but look at all this yummy, yummy farm. Crit even going to tether him up. Make sure he's got the regen to keep spamming out the stickies.
Man.
Let's just look at that money come on in. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. That is a lot of good farm. I mean, I didn't even, since it was stacked up so early, I didn't even think twice that it'd probably just be for the Bat Rider. And if they are able to blitz together a blink early into the game, no one's going to ever expect that.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to get some early quick kills. There's even more stacks over here and stacks on the other side. Pandago and Crit have been putting in the support work to just make sure that they can build up all that side money.
All right, well, they're going to need it. Complexity getting the better of this laning phase. Already ahead by 4 figures in golden experience. That's the Enigma factor there, I guess you could call it. Down in the bottom lane, Z-Free getting slightly aggressive onto Infinity. This offlane Spirit Breaker still finding a good bit of space. Now 12, 13 last hits. Not quite up to snuff with the Bat Rider, but for Spirit Breaker, it's a different story. He just wants to hit level 6, start charging around, and find kills with that Nether Strike. Bat, of course, it's all about the blink. And 1,400 gold at 4.5 minutes. With Wisp here, he doesn't have to go for bottle, doesn't need to get those tranquils, and he's able to do this pretty easily. Except the Mud Golems, of course, they'll make his life just a little more difficult. David Parker reincarnated here.
Well, I gotta say, though, for Complexity, it's not like they're not getting as much done. I mean, their Enigma gets free roam in the jungle. Z-Freak in the offlane Spirit Breaker is level 5 before even 5 minutes. Actually, he's almost on the way to level 6, and he has reasonable 16 and 1 CS for your offlane Spirit Breaker is very good. And then, of course, Ziz has had a free time on the Vipers, and he's got near 1,400 gold. So when you think that eHUG are getting a lot, so are Complexity. So these two are going to be able to build up a pretty significant mid-game, and it's as far as which team is going to look to strike first. It could be eHUG once this Blink Dagger does come together, which doesn't seem too long.
Looks like Complexity is a step ahead of you here, friend. They've got a smoke on their 2 supports, ready to put some hurt on this Tiny. Sorrow almost level 6. There's a black hole from Riser, and this should be a pretty easy kill. Definitely worth deploying the black hole if need be, but they won't even need it. Plenty of crowd controls as the first blood is drawn. And the bonus gold goes to Swindle Melons on the Bristleback. Nice rotation, and they don't even have to use the black hole, so they could basically just rinse and repeat, regen up, and do it again. And not much eHUG can really do about it at this stage.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a lack of communication or something. Knowing that I know they don't personally have anyone in the top lane, they do have to keep in mind where this Lion could be if he's not going to be up there. They already know Enigma has been off the radar the whole game, so they just have to play a little cautious, just in case something like that happens, and it does, and now Complexity benefit from the first blood. But Zara will make his return. He hits his level 6. We'll go ahead and pop his pills or steroids or whatever and get a little bit bigger there, and now going to be side by side. Going back to your Bat Rider, though, he's got 2,500 gold. He's got a blink. He's got a smoke, and he's ready to go out on an adventure.
Yeah, Enigma picks up another smoke as well, so perhaps ready to find another gank himself now that he's sitting level 7. Mid lane, I think smashing success for Complexity. This Wisp can only be in one place at one time, and Tiny not getting horribly out-farmed here, but still not really farming amazingly. Instead, they've used the Wisp to prioritize the Bat Rider's blink, and now that he has it, that puts some pressure on MJW. He's got to make some plays happen, and if this first Blink Dagger reveal yields a kill, then I think it's worthy, but if not, then things may get a little tricky here for Team eHUG. This is a very early timing, though. 7 minutes to already have the blink. I don't think Complexity are going to be ready for this one.
Ooh, he's going to take flight here. Swindle was in the lane, now decides to step back. Enigma is close by. Can you get him to go a little bit further? Oh, but
the cow was charging.
Yeah, he was there. He gave him the vision. Oh, Complexity, man. Again, one step ahead.
Look at this. Dire have a ward on the high ground here. They saw that coming from a mile away. That's a Blink Dagger reveal that yields absolutely nothing.
Okay, MJW just has to shake that one off. He'll head back up to the off lane here, and now it's feeling pretty good here for Complexity. They avoid any sort of nasty early pickoff from that, and they can continue to benefit from just some easy farms. Ziz decided to invest in the Midas, which I really don't blame him. He's had plenty of good farm to work with and can build on top of that. Viper, not notoriously known for being a big presence in the late game, but if you get a lot built up early on, I mean, you get a Manta, you can build some good right click.
I mean, if you're left completely uncontested like this for free farm, there are very few heroes where a Midas does not make sense. If you can get it fast enough, it's just a straight economic gain, and I think this is a great game for it. We're talking about how Complexity doesn't really have the best late game, at least on paper, so one way for them to try and at least tango into the mid game is to have tools that allow you to stay ahead and keep your farming up. So I like this choice a lot. Jug, going for a standard build so far, just to kill a phase boots, probably a Mask of Madness coming out next for him, and Sorrow doing about the same.
Bottom lane, though, they do commit. Z-Freak uses that first big Nether Strike, and now they're waiting for him to stop spinning. Squeeze going to be there, but now he gets lassoed on up, hog-tied, and chopped apart right there. Infinity gets a returning kill right there. MJW to the rescue.
Yeah, very nice. Good rotation from MJW, right on point. TP's in just in the nick of time, and finally finds a kill with that lasso. So the Blink Dagger comes out a bit earlier than he can really find anything with it, and it's a Flaming Lasso on cooldown. Still holding on to that smoke. Hasn't had to use it yet, and that levels things out a little bit. Glancing at the net worth graph overall, it's still a Complexity with a pretty staggering lead, given how quiet it's been. They are just getting a lot of farm out of this map. Swindle did go for a fast Vanguard, so now this Bristle can really get aggressive if need be, and makes him a very difficult target to man up on.
Yeah, and it's going to be man-up season here soon for eHUG, as Crit is closer and closer to level 6 on his Wisp. That relocate is going to be available to them if they want to go ahead and go on a, ganking expedition. At the same moment, though, you look at the other side, and you got Riser, who's helping push Ziz in this top lane. He is very close to a mechanism, just about 400 goals away, and, well, that bounty of a Tier 1 tower certainly could help get there, so they're going to go right for it. And with that, they gain much more access to the secret shop and everything on this side of the map.
Ziz almost finds Pandago there. Wants to hit him with a Viper Strike, and I think that's a dead Bane. If so, stops him with a Nightmare, and they're happy just to have him zoned out. The last hit will go to Riser, and hey, there's a mechanism coming on the way via the Courier. Now Swindle, Invisibility Rune online, cutting through the mid lane, maybe just looking for someone that maybe left astray. He sees no Wisp mid, and if he can find a Wisp without somebody to tether to, that is just a freebie. Wisp will camp out bottom, gets a regen rune. Swindle, though, in hot pursuit. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, looks like the real kill is going to be on Z-Freak. Lasso's already been deployed. Z-Freak tries to charge away, but he gets stunned up, and that will be the end of him. Another kill for the Juggernaut. Nicely done by eHUG.
Yep. Now Crick gets to move away. He has a regen bottled up, one of the best rune and bottle situations you can ask for as a Wisp. As now Relocate is at the ready here. We'll have to see when they decide to maybe go out. At the same moment, Sar was able to complete. He brought out a Bracer and a Robe, so he's going for drums. A little bit extra mobility certainly doesn't hurt, but then got to go for that Agnum Scepter thereafter. And it looks like pressure on the mid lane. They're looking to defend here and see what they can do about it. Just a little bit of casual harassment for now, but the charge is out, and they are looking for something to happen.
Yeah, the cow's still pretty far away, actually charging from base. It looks like the fight may break out before then. MJW blinks forward, but he doesn't have a lasso. A little too aggressive, perhaps. The team follow-up is there. He was just the bait. They will bring him down. The first death in this fight. Riser with a black hole catches only Infinity, but he was in Blade Fury. Minimal damage. He does end up going down. It's looking good for Complexity as now Sorrow tries to hop forward. He finishes off the Enigma, but it'll cost him his life. The relocate just a little too slow. Doesn't get much closer than that, but it will be Complexity that clear out a tower as well as clear out 3 on the Radiant side for just their Enigma.
Pandago was like, maybe I could get close enough from the tether too, but Z-Freak, good heads-up play, went past to see if there would be anyone there to try to help him out, and that forces Pandago back. Crit returns, Crit goes down. Now Complexity push ahead 5-3.
You know, it seemed like kind of an odd black hole at first, only catching 1, but it was right in the middle of the fight, and the rest of eHUG were just sort of looking at their Juggernaut on the other side of the event horizon going, well, it was nice to know you, buddy. There's not really much we can do to save you. So I think a very well-placed black hole there breaks the fight up, and Complexity will just keep the momentum going. They'll rotate down bottom, and now this Tier 1 tower will be available for the taking.
Yeah, very similar to a style we see from a higher up, like Secret Squad. You know, we get your Puppy Enigma or Chen. You work in the jungle, you build up towards a quick mechanism, and then you can just look to break down these Tier 1 towers and access points, so then you can get a bit more aggressive with your warding and map control, and maybe even secure a Roche for yourself. They're not the biggest Roche lineup. They can do it, but it definitely would take a little bit of extra muscle power. But now the charge happening out here from Z-Freak towards the mid lane. He's got vision onto Sorrow and his Tiny, and he will pull back.
Okay. Seemed like a good play from Swindle to charge in there. He took the Nightmare cooldown, and I was thinking, well, now the Bristle, or pardon me, now the Spirit Breaker can just run in and no way to stop him, but Avalanche was still available and a little bit too deep. No reason to force it.
Top tower is under attack.
Complexity with a pretty decent lead here now, about 5k gold and XP going their way. Viper, what is he invested in? Looks like it's just a Yasha for now, some more farming tools. eHUG, though, they want blood here, Dakota.
They certainly do. Okay, they get Squee. Good stun, good setup, but he gets the Earth Spike off and does go down. Can't get the finger off. That would have gotten crit, but thankfully they have enough horsepower there to knock down the Lion.
The Lion makes a little space, though. Now in the Radiant jungle, they catch the Bat Rider. Swindle will get credit for that one. Meanwhile, the rest of eHUG still up top. They get a ward down to give some vision into the tree line here. Ziz as well as Swindle have already rotated in, and that'll be enough for eHUG just to get the hell out of here. They really don't want to take a fight if they don't have to. Spirit Breaker had a charge going, and will cancel it as he sees the TP's home. Good exchange for Complexity overall, though. They're 3-0 in total tower count. Spirit Breaker with 1,500 gold also. His farm is really looking very good. We talked about how well he was doing in the lane, but I thought Bat Rider would start to overtake him after seeing all those stacks, but no, it's actually the Spirit Breaker that's ahead in net worth right now.
He's doing a very good job being like the linebacker for his team right now, and if he can build up more of that farm, he can get a BKB, and then there's really no stopping the Space Cow from doing what he wants. And you know, I think that they're going to be way up and ahead. And look over at Infinity, and he's putting together some good farm on his Jug. I mean, more XP would certainly be better, so he can get that Omni Slash quickly up to level 2. Then it gets really nice and effective for him. But he's got the raw essentials, got your Mask of Madness and Phase Boots here, and about 1,500 gold. And if eHUG are able to get a couple of quick picks, whether it will be with a relocate or not, maybe they themselves can move into that Roche Pit and get the job done. It wouldn't take nearly as much effort as they already have the Jug, and then, of course, a Wisp along with a Tiny. They could definitely put out the damage.
It's true. eHUG has been very quiet with this Wisp so far. I don't think we've seen any relocates yet, actually, except for that one in the mid that was defensive and ended up technically a relocate, but Tiny and Wisp both ended up dying anyway, so not really the kind of relocates that you want to remember.
It definitely would be a lot easier if they can take down some of these tier 1 towers and then be able to put down some wards more deep into Complexity territory, and then they can catch someone when they are trying to solo farm or pull stacks or do something of that nature.
Speaking of solo farming stacks, it's Swindle Melons on the Dire side. They've got a nice fatty here. Looks like a 4 stack at least of Ancients. And he'll have it easy. Just turns his back.
That's an SNY in the making right there.
And that, I think that is the money for the Yasha. If not, he's going to be very close. I like this build on Bristle. Great value items this early on. Gives you such an edge at this stage of the game. With the Warpath stacks, you hit so hard. If you get a main proc on top of the Viscous Nasal Goo, there's just no getting away from you. And you're speedy as hell. He's just got everything that you don't want to go up against at this stage of the game if you're on the other team.
Yeah, all those stacks of Warpath can really hit you hard. And that's something you don't expect from a Bristleback, is him being able to dish serious right click. But once he starts putting these kind of tools together, it is pretty serious. And, well, he's not going to be an easy target to break down. And look at this, Complexity are going to make the go into the pit, not bringing any Eidolons. Oh, there they are. Hey, buddies, come on in here. And now they're going to come in and help out.
The cutest little baby Voidwalkers that I've ever seen. They've got plenty of minus armor. I think they've got a medallion up on someone. I thought they did. Nope, never mind. I don't see it coming out here. Is it on the courier, actually?
Probably not too necessary.
It sure is. It's Riser's medallion. So even without it, very easy with the Bristleback, of course. Plenty of minus armor and no wards from the Radiant side, so they do not seem very keen on it. You see the magic stick is dropped. The Wisp lets us know. And the Aegis is picked up. That's a second life now for Swindle Melons on the Bristle.
Very good. And look at them. They are ready to play. Charge already out. Sorrow's going to need some help here. I don't see Z-Freak letting up, and as I say that, he does. Okay. Z-Freak doesn't want to commit too far. Probably the smarter choice. I just kind of want to see some bloodshed, but Complexity looking to take things nice and easy from this point while they still have the advantage. And at the same moment, Infinity just finding some good farm for himself. He's split pushing and camping up here.
Well, would you look at this? SNY coming out for the Viper, and it's actually the Crimson Guard coming out on Swindle next. So just a casual saunter now, maybe looking for a Halberd later on, but grabs it as a quote-unquote value item for now and looks for some physical mitigation for his team.
And just to emphasize more about that physical mitigation, Merlini just recently put out that video saying Stout Shield, Crimson Guard, all these kind of items that do block physical damage do also work with some of the physical magic spells or whatever.
Yeah, a great example, not in context of this game, but Razor's ultimate does physical damage. Those little ticks will be blocked by Crimson Guard.
Dazzle's heal.
Yep. There's quite a few others. They're very little niche type things, but
in this game,
very potent item. Even just having it this early on, mitigating all that damage from right clicks actually adds up more than you think. It's one of those little items that doesn't feel like it has a big impact, but it makes your team a lot more tanky.
It's everything, though. Even if you just want to push, like this kind of setup here, you'd be giving that to your whole little army that normally would be beaten down pretty quick. Now they survive a couple extra shots. All those shots add up, and you just have more to push with. Suddenly they're going to high ground.
Seem ready for this. Everyone has a TP except for the Bane, so this will be a 5v4 at least to some degree. Jug's still trying to push as much as he can. There is a Radiant Glyph. I don't think Complexity will go too deep here, but I like the play to touch on the high ground, do what damage you can to the tower, and force a reaction out of eHUG. They know they've got the advantage right now, and they will force it. They've also got the Aegis on Bristleback. They've got a medallion that they've been buffing him up with. They have pretty much everything they need to make this a successful play. There will be the glyph still held. They'll glyph their tier 2 up top. Jug really wants this tower. It's still a 5v4. And Bane will be sitting way back. He's holding onto a gem with just brown boots, so not a time where Bane really wants to take a scary skirmish.
MJW is able to put together the Force Staff now on the Bat Rider. That makes it a lot easier to jump in and get someone and pull them away from their team. A team that likes to be moving as a unit. They got their mech, they got this whole little army, Crimson Guard and stuff. Being able to kind of pull them apart is something that eHUG certainly need. I mean, obviously it feels that this Wisp Tiny wasn't really able quite yet to be a Wisp Tiny. There's no relocate pick-off attempts. They were put into a mid-lane setup that really isn't ideal for them, and they're just kind of on the path to recovery here, as Sorrow is just a component or so away from finishing out the Agnum Scepter. Then he can get that tree trunk, and, you know, we all know what happens from there.
Oh, yeah. That's
he's got it now, actually.
That's
there
where things get a little scary, yeah. So now the farming begins for Sorrow. You look at the gold graph, and Complexity have consistently garnered themselves a big edge this game, about 8k gold and XP. Z-Freak. He's going down. He takes a solo Omni slash flame breaks there for good measure, and well, that's a freebie for Team eHUG. Very nicely done. Though Complexity still all grouped up in the mid lane, and they will continue to put on pressure with or without their space cap.
Looking to just get the most mileage out of this Aegis while they got it. They can eliminate all the outer towers. Doing so, great. They will get a huge reward across the whole team. They already have a 7,500 net worth advantage over eHUG because of it, and now there's going to be another tower to take. So they will just push mid. From their perspective, push mid, see if they can get anyone to TP back and, you know, be away from the farm. But
well, they've got about 2 minutes left on the Aegis. No, 1 minute left. There will be a relocate available. MJW puts the lasso on to Swindle. Remember, he'll be coming back to life. The ideal target from Complexity's perspective to be pulled into the base like this. But will there be any support so he can make the escape? He's going to keep his back turned. There's your Fiend's Grip. Jug gets on the front side of him, and okay, well, not the ideal way to spend the Aegis, as it turns out. The rest of the team goes back to try and pressure the Tiny Wisp. Crit will try to TP home, but Z-Freak gets there just in the nick of time, and they do end up punishing eHUG at least a little bit. Wisp goes down in exchange for their Bristle. Not ideal, but hey, it's something.
Yeah, a little too deep there from Swindle. Maybe being able to just kind of step back and take that party to the top lane and go for a tier 2 there. Could have been a safer journey to go on, but they felt like they could pressure it enough and force the Tiny Wisp to come back, but he does end up going down. But not too much of a loss for them. It looks like Complexity now will have to just kind of step back, and, well, I say that, but here comes Z-Freak. Charging right towards Pandago. Will cancel it out there as he sees the Bat Rider nearby.
This is the way to do it. You just want to chain charge, give your team as much vision as possible. Even if you only go through with maybe 5-10% of your charges, that whole time when you're charging across the map, you're giving your team valuable intel. You're making space for your carries to farm safely, knowing that they're not at risk of getting ganked. And all things considered, I think Z-Freak's actually played a very good Spirit Breaker this game. He did end up going for the Hand of Midas, another thing that Z-Freak likes to do quite often in that more greedy position 3, position 4 that he plays, and will slowly start to transition into a bit more of a hard-hitting core. As Viper seems like he's just going hard at Tarask. I think Ziz just wants to beef up this game.
Yeah, no problem with that. I mean, you're a Viper. You're already going to be pretty durable, and you reflect a bit of that damage back, and he's just overall has some great DPS output. That adds a lot to the team. Swindle going to be working with another stack after he was brought down, maybe taking the steps to finish out the rest of that S and Y. I mean, it could be a halberd as well, I suppose.
The halberd feels a little more likely, only because SNY is one of those items that the earlier you get it, the bigger advantage it gives you. It's not an item that scales particularly well and gives you a huge edge right when you pick it up.
There it is.
Halberd, yeah, there it is. Like I was thinking, it scales a little more effectively and gives you slightly more utility, whereas SNY is more about that right-click damage. So, smart read, though. Tiny. We'll have to get a BKB at some point, but I don't think he really wants to go BKB next item, and this could be crippling in the next skirmish. As Complexity smoke up and move through the mid. There's a big item on Z-Freak. It's the Shadow Blade.
Yeah. The evasion might not help out Swindlemelons too much because the cleave does go through it, but more importantly, just the disarm would be nice to have against the Tiny. But yeah, they are heading towards the bottom here. Your Wisp Tiny need to be a bit careful. Crit trying to put himself into a safe spot here, but it looks like there will not be anyone looking to come this way. Enigma does pick up a Blink Dagger now, so positioning becomes a bit easier for him.
Complexity are handling this right, though, Dakota. They know they're ahead, and they know they need to continue to make plays happen. The scary thing here is that eHUG have kind of stymied this push. It's been plateaued at that gold lead they had about 5-6 minutes ago. And if they take a bad fight at this point, that's where eHUG can really start getting some counter momentum and look to put the pressure on themselves. Tiny is not at that point yet where he's big, bad, and scary, nor is the Jug, but...
where did he get 3k gold from,
another
though?
core item or two, and it's just the power of that Whomping Willow, man. He farms so fast with the Wisp backing him up.
I definitely feel like there is... Time is not on the side for Complexity as it is for eHUG, but here comes a Z-Freak charge. This one he's not looking to let up as he just commits all for it. But that Shadow Blade gets the connection, now puts his focus on Crit. Crit's in trouble. Crit gets blasted from Squee. And your Wisp is dead. Okay.
Got him. That's the way to do it. With a Wisp down, this Tiny is much less scary than he otherwise would be. Question, though, is can they actually find something out of this? In the mid lane, it'll get cut by the Bat Rider, so they lose a couple of their creeps. And up top, Jug will TP home after forcing a TP back from Ziz and a charge from Z-Freak. So, well played by eHUG to push back Complexity without having to take any more casualties than just their Wisp.
Yeah, Infinity's been doing a really good job continuously pushing out those side lanes, finding the farm on his Jug, and he has been helping out his team stay up neck and neck of the net worth with Complexity. But mid lane, it breaks out now. MJW going to get charged, bashed up, Pupsley to high ground, tossed back and down. But there we go. Fiend's Grip stacked on top. They quickly wipe the floor with 2, but Swindle still wants to go toe-to-toe. He has his sights onto the Tiny, now sees Pandago. Pandago is locked into a corner, and he is just going to get ripped apart. And there he does fall.
Okay.
2-for-1 trade right there. eHUG getting the slightly better end of it.
Man, if only Pandago had a Force Staff. That would have been a very nice getaway there to the high ground, but... Farm will not allow, and well, he ends up biting the bullet. 1 for 2. Still great, though. That's about the best Juggernaut ult you can hope for in a situation like that. Secures 2 kills, and with that Mask of Madness on, boy, does he do a lot of damage. Now Jug begins the quest for his Scotty, not too far away, and it's really this Viper for Complexity. Their lead felt pretty big, but they do have 2 Hands of Midas. So if you take away that nearly 4,000 net worth investment, you know, maybe 3,000 if you want to add some value for that attack speed, they're not nearly as far ahead as the numbers would have you believe.
Wagering that Tiny is going to be going for a Manta here. Manta off the Viper Strike, I would assume.
Yeah,
Doesn't hurt to have
Manta
more,
or BKB, I think. He may just grab the Yasha as kind of an intermediate farming tool.
The one thing I hate with BKB when you're a Wisp is that you have to work around the BKB just to tether to him.
Yeah, that's a good... Maybe the Manta is a little more appealing then.
I mean, it has to be done sometimes. I've definitely seen many a time where BKBs have been picked up on a Tiny with a Wisp, but, you know, it can be difficult for the Wisp to help him or pull him out or give him that bonus or reduce damage plus the overcharge. And, you know, I'm wagering this could be the man to get up here, but he already is holding and sitting on a lot of gold here, 4.3k. And yeah, they will continue to just bulk up here between him and the Juggernaut. The damage output is going to get a bit scary here for Complexity, even though they had this strong start.
Yes, sir. Roshan, he's going down, but Squee, okay, let's scout things out. Needs to be a little careful, though.
Roshan has
And
fallen
he will
to the
be.
ground.
It's another Aegis here for the Bristleback. What you gonna do, Swindle? Looks like he's charging on in. Complexity want to stay aggressive. Already a plate mail now up on the Bristle. I don't know why I said already. It's a Perfectly normal timing for a plate mail. But now Swindle caught by the lasso. Charge comes out onto MJW. Can they bring him down fast enough? Omni Slash will catch a lot of bounces, but the Crimson Guard gets used. Mitigates a fair bit of the damage. Now the charge comes through onto MJW, but no, interrupted by the Fiend's grip. They still finished off the Wisp with the finger, but Complexity with a couple low health heroes. How's the rest of this fight going to go? Pandago gets into the defensive nightmare. He ends up going down. It will be a 2-0 going the way of Complexity, and that was eHUG being the aggressors there. Swindle, not your ideal lasso target, especially when he has that Aegis of the Immortal. I mean, best bet, you bring him down, then he comes back to life, and his team is there with a black hole and all their damage to follow up. Felt like even the best case scenario for eHUG was really not that great.
Yeah, and their supports, I mean, they're not the most farmed. They're pretty frail. So all that damage output onto Swindle, he's just going to reflect it right back and start blowing up the Wisp and hurting the Bane. And yeah, they don't even take him down the first time. So Complexity now can kind of ascend to the high ground here in the bottom lane. Tier 3 already goes down. Viper Strike onto your Tiny. And he is going to get saved with the push. He has the Yash on hand now, so he was trying to push for that Manta, but he needs to reserve a bit of gold for the buyback here. But that's the Rax now down. A melee Rax have at it bottom lane. This isn't game-breaking for eHUG in their kind of a lineup, but it definitely will hurt.
Well, 30 minutes tends to be that magic mark when carry-focused lineups start to take over a little bit, and teams such as what Complexity have that are on a timer really need to start doing some crippling damage. And maybe not crippling enough to win the game yet, but getting a melee barracks down at 28 minutes certainly fits within the general strategy they're trying to employ here. And, well, walking on that tightrope, still in good shape, but need to keep this up to continue on looking strong in this game. Now to about 14k net worth and 14k experience in the lead. Really not too shabby. Though, eHUG still finding some item progression of their own. Tiny now with his Manta style picked up. Good call on that one. And Jug, 3,200 gold plus that ultimate orb. He's got a Scotty right around the corner.
BKB now complete on Riser and his Enigma. So really the only way to stop him is, like, what, Fiend's Grip? They can get on him?
Yeah, I think that's it.
So he is going to be sitting pretty here, and that is a big team fight for Complexity. That kind of lockdown would allow, you know, Swindle to be able to get the most out of it. Bristle, who really thrives on those long-winded fights, he'll be able to get the maximum amount of damage output. And something eHUG will have to...
I guess the first hit from Omni Slash would also interrupt it, but you're good luck.
Yeah, but
that's not one you can even really count in the docket there. But it is a Shiva's Guard for Swindle. All right, so I was thinking perhaps he'd be looking at an Assault Karas just to buff up his damage output, make this Tiny a little easier to kill with all that craggy exterior he's got going on. But Shiva's great here too, a fantastic item against the Jug Tiny core. We talked about ways to kite the Tiny, very important. They've already got the Sticky Goo, Viper Strike. Well, now you've got one more slow in the mix to run this Tiny around in circles.
Infinity also completes his Scotty, the new too hot to trot item on the streets right now. Your Scotty build up. If you're a core, you're probably getting a Scotty at some point. Just feels like nowadays, but yeah, Infinity with that gets a huge stat boost, and really this Jug can hit pretty damn hard. That slow does go effective through the Omni Slash as well. So we'll see how much mileage they'll be able to get out of it here. He's now rolling side by side here with your Wisp Tiny down the bottom lane, as they try to maybe add some pressure towards these tier 2s, but at the same moment you have Complexity moving in from the northern side of the map now, finishing out the last tier 2 of eHUG.
The last outer tower indeed. eHUG will try to go for a tower exchange, but they are not winning this pushing war, and they need to be a little careful here. They don't have a glyph. Complexity could charge up the high ground. There's still an Aegis on the Bristle for about 1 minute longer. Complexity managing these timers very well. They do hand over that tier 2 in the bottom, but well worth it if they can get another lane of barracks here.
Yeah, but look who's in the base on the other side.
Wow, Tiny wants to base race it. There is a dire glyph, however. Their tier 3 tower will take a good bit of damage. They've already cleared the T3 here in the top lane.
Infinity's here too. They're going to hit these racks pretty hard on the side of Complexity.
Complexity, got to be careful here. There's their glyph.
Swindle has no mana to TP right now either.
Oh my, this could end up being a disaster. He'll get there.
Ziz is TPing now. They need to do something. They just lost the Rex. Or they definitely lost at least one of them. The range Rex will still stand, but man.
That was a pretty good trade for eHUG, I think. They're not as afraid to give away a lane of barracks like that, but I don't know. I feel like that's really quite good. That's the reason you don't want to base race against Tiny. Sort of a break even, I suppose you could put it at.
Uh-oh, they might catch Swindle. Greedy farming nearby. Oh, MJW moves in, but he gets hexed up. No lasso, gets bursted with the finger. He could go down. Oh, trying to crawl away.
Oh, what
the charge. Z-Freak shows up bats him down, and okay, now it's gonna break out. Manta gets unleashed here. Tiny trying to duke it out, gets stunned up, now bashed back, Swindle, Fiend's gripped, and now the black hole flies out, catches on the 2. Infinity gets dragged in, but quickly pops out the healing ward, and now they are going to be the ones to turn in onto Complexity and dish out the damage. Will they make it out alive?
Crimson Guard helping him out quite a bit, but what's the escape lane here? Infinity, he's fast. He's going to keep chasing them down. Bane fell off to the side. Z-Freak comes in. Maybe Complexity can still turn this around on the other side of the fight. They lose Lion. MJW did buy back. He used a lasso onto Ziz, but the follow-up damage just wasn't there. Now Infinity gets bashed by Z-Freak. He gives him the lantern. And it's eHUG on the defensive. MJW caught by a poison attack. Crit's there, but that'll cost Crit his life, and they're still going to chase down MJW. Okay, Force Staff will get him back to the base. What a chaotic fight, but it is Complexity that come out ahead. The Crimson Guard doing an unbelievable amount of damage mitigation in that fight, and I think that was the magic item that let them turn it around. It was a 1 for 4 and a buyback on the Bat Rider. That's a good 2,500 net worth change going in favor of Complexity, and well, they're hoping this game gets a little bit brighter here. As 33 minutes in, they take a very successful fight.
That looked like a strong turnaround for eHUG, but then somehow the fight got split right down the middle. Yeah. You had Infinity, who just kind of was going gung-ho against 3 of the Complexity squad, but back and behind, Ziz and his Viper were just kind of really duking it out with Tiny and Wisp, and he was taking care of him almost on his own. And because of that, Infinity got turned on, and he was being kited about, and it was very awkward right there. And because of it, Complexity got the most out of it because they could soak up more of that damage because of those kind of items and the itemization. So, well, that worked out really well for Complexity. Still not enough to take eHUG out of this game quite yet, but we could see potential eyes on the next Roche.
20,000 net worth and experience, the lead for Complexity. It just continues to grow, but as this game goes on, the Tiny is getting bigger, he's getting badder, he's getting more moss all over those rocks. He's got a plate mail and Hyperstone now, 1,200 gold. That's an AC on the way out. Viper already has one for the Dire side, but will help counteract some of those efforts. Z-Freak, he's on a mission up top. He's not going to cancel this one. He wants Tiny. Oh, he cancels it just at the last second. Z-Freak is carrying a gem right now.
They're looking for Wisp. They know that Wisp has got to be up here if Tiny's here. And he wants to find him. Z-Freak's looking for him, but he's not there. There he is. Goes right through him. What the hell? I wanted that. Whoa! Whoa! Furthest Nether Strike I've ever seen in my life. Connects from Z-Freak, and then he gets the bash after.
That was a pretty serious Nether Strike right there. He tethered away, so that's what gave it that extra little bit of a distance, but my oh my.
That will follow you all the way. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's still possible that if you time it right and you can hit someone in the base after they TP.
I'm almost positive you can't disjoin it. So once it goes off like that and you relocate out, it still flies. I'm like 90% sure. I've never actually seen someone like jump into the well like that, but I know based on the mechanics, that's how it should work.
That's ridiculous. That was a good quick catch of that Nether Strike right there before he got too far away. So they still find the Wisp and punish him.
Okay, well, that's one way to do it. Just keep picking on the Wisp. He does have a Vladimir's offering up, so Crit's still finding some okay item progression. It's the Bane who's really poor this game. Pandago playing that very sacrificial position 5 style. Just arcane boots and consumables for him this game. He does kill the ward that was in their base with the sentry. That's a nice little victory for him there.
He's the ward guy.
Oh, yeah. Every team's got to have a ward guy. Complexity, I have a feeling they're just waiting out next Roche, and it'll be up in just about a minute. I studied up on my clocks here, and there you go, 50 seconds.
Wonderful. I'm so happy that pop-out came out to tell me with a digital number. Too bad I can't summon it when I want, but
digital sports.
One day, AC now complete on Tiny. Okay, now he hits hard.
Yeah, and fast. That's the big thing now. His DPS gets a big bump. And, of course, having the Vlads on the Wisp also helps out that damage output. Great aura item to have at this stage. BKB is up on the Bat Rider. He picked it up before that last fight, I believe. It's down to a 9-second charge. So
that's a big pickup for him because you got to remember in one of those recent engagements, MJW had a big jump in, but then he got hexed immediately. And the lasso couldn't connect, and then the charge came after, and pretty much MJW was rendered useless for that whole skirmish. And that's when he bought back. So having the BKB now, he can feel a little bit more powerful being able to jump in and lead off his team with a good initiation.
How's our Enigma looking? BKB of his own, down to 9 seconds. Debuted in that last fight, and now an ultimate orb. Probably the Scythe of Vice for him, but still a little ways off. Whatever item it will be. It could also be something like a Lincoln's this go-around. Now, Roche 3 is respawned, and Complexity are in the pit. Radiant have no vision, and they are pushing the top lane. So Complexity will be able to grab this Aegis, then TP home and look to defend their base. Does everybody have a TP scroll? Uh-oh, they're lacking on the TP scrolls here, KotLGuy.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, this is actually really scary. They do not have a single TP scroll, and eHUG will not force the issue. They see the glyph and they back it on out. They don't have any vision themselves, so they have no idea where Complexity are around the map. They have no idea that they're lacking in the TP scrolls. That is... I don't want to call it luck for Complexity, but that was a little bit lucky that eHUG didn't roll the dice there and go for it. I think they could have just powered down that barracks before Complexity could have even really reacted.
Almost a bit too risky for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So better play it safe when you're not technically ahead in this game. If you're looking to make the comeback play, you better do it efficiently, because if you take another big loss of a fight, you might as well hand over the game at that point. But look at this fun pickup. The Agnum Scepter was complete on Spearbreaker.
Oh.
We don't get to see that very often in competitive play. What does this do again?
Super short cooldown. Takes the cooldown now to 20 seconds. Gives you some extra range.
Cast range increased even further.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Scoot even further. Yeah, it's the cooldown is the big one, though. Slightly longer cast range. Yeah, that's cute. But now you can use this multiple times in team fights. You charge in, you initiate, start off with a Nether Strike. Middle of that engagement, you've got another Nether Strike coming up. And hey, maybe that is an extended fight where you're kiting around the trees. Maybe even get a third one as someone's trying to get away and make it back to the base. A very powerful item. Certainly a luxury item. The big reason you don't see it too often. Usually Spirit Breaker doesn't get a lot of farm priority, but Z-Freak living up to that reputation of finding farm in the strangest of places.
Yeah, I mean, one could probably make the argument that there could have been something to put in its place that offers something more, but I guess since Complexity already have their Shivas, I would assume, and their AC, that I guess you can kind of go down that road. But it doesn't matter now as Complexity are muscling forward now into the baseline.
More split push. Tiny, he's going bottom, and Complexity, they're going mid.
Holy crap, that's 3 hits and that Rax is down. Okay.
Yep, Tiny's at the point where he's really large, but Complexity have almost enough of an edge that they could try to base race it, mostly because of this outer tower right here. This big boy, that's what gives them that little buffer they need.
Z-Freak's charging back here. There he is.
Okay, he interrupts the TP. That could be big, although now he's going to have to box the Tiny, and well, looks like he might have brought a knife to a gunfight. BKB on, brings down crit. Now Sorrow's isolated. Can Z-Freak just stay alive? BKB about to expire, but Sorrow low on mana. Close range charge from Z-Freak. Does a little bit of extra damage, slows him down, and now Sorrow's on the run. Z-Freak trying to bait him out. He will, but it'll cost him his life. Still creates the Viper Strike, or sets up for the Viper Strike, rather, and now this will be a dead Tiny. So all things considered, very well played by the Spirit Breaker. He made all of that possible, and oh, not only do they trade 2 for 1 with a big kill on the Tiny, but now in the mid lane, Swindle will press forward, and they did good damage to that tier 3 tower mid. It's almost dead. Tiny, though, he buys back. He's angry. He wants vengeance.
That worked out so good. Again, Complexity, not many TPs. They kind of had a whole run back. But because Spirit Breaker, he first canceled the TP from Tiny, so then he was stuck without a TP. His only way out was with Wisp. So Spirit Breaker just goes for the Wisp, takes him out, and now Tiny is just stranded. And they take him down. Now he buys back, and, well, he better not go down again. So.
I think the buyback there was just, there's no way Complexity doesn't push off this. They still have an Aegis. They've got the advantage.
Get it back on cooldown.
Yeah, exactly. Get it on cooldown as soon as possible. I think it's the right play. It seems like a wasted buyback, but if you're going to use it anyway, just a little bit of efficiency there. So Complexity, this is the time where they need to make it happen. 25k net worth, 30,000 experience, still furthering their lead. eHUG still finding some more items, though. Tiny.
A lot of them just rolling again without a TP. I mean, it's a dangerous kind of a game to do that against a Wisp and a Tiny, but
they need some BOTs, man. The only TP they have is on Riser.
So they might need to consider, investing in some of those fancy ruby red shoes, so that in case pressure does come, which top lane Z-Freak, who is Shadowbladed, eyeballing Sorrow here. Again, Wisp is probably nearby. There he is. Z-Freak's going to go for him. There's a hit, immediate relocate. Oh, the stun, and it's not enough. He goes down again. Z-Freak has been putting crit in check all this game. Oh, you want a TP now? Well, here's a bash. Bumps him back, and now he's going to go to town. Him and Riser. There's a black hole. And now they're going to move in. Oh, man.
That's one of those black holes. Like, we probably have him anyway, but a secured dieback here means this game just got a lot easier. Instantly, Complexity ping out that mid-tier 3, and this could well be a GG push. 90 seconds without a Tiny. He is so much of this eHUG team right now. their base will be in big, big trouble. They still have an Aegis of the Immortal, I believe. Well, not for long. It's going to expire in about 10 seconds, so they won't have that at their disposal, but here comes Complexity marching down the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, eHUG were able to push out the top lane quite a bit. Bottom lane, Infinity was just working on, but where the real last standing hurrah is in this mid lane, and now they move through. They get the tier 3 lasso, will connect on Ziz. Z-Freak has the charge out, but a little far away here. Armor's going to be blasted out. Infinity, one of the last hopes of damage, now going to get focused, and he's down immediately. The buyback comes out at the moment, and now MJW going to be the next target here. Man, these two, the Swindle Bristleback and Z-Freak on this Spirit Breaker have been just so dominant.
One building standing between Complexity and Mega Creeps at this point. It's that ranged barracks down bottom. eHUG still holding on to their glyph for now. Tiny in the grave for another 30 seconds. Now Pandago initiated on. Charge from Z-Freak. He's getting bashed all over the place. They finally kill the Bane. That stops the Fiend's grip. And they'll bring down the Juggernaut as well. As soon as he falls, the GG is called, and it's Complexity that take game 1, 24-10. Very dominant style here. They played that one right. Had a dominant early game, carried the momentum, and really just never let up.
It actually worked out really well for them. I mean, we questioned how potent their late game was going to be. There were definitely glimpses of potential, like, turnaround upsets by eHUG being able to get a good split push, but on multiple occasions, even when Complexity didn't even have a TP scroll on hand, they found a way to stop them from pushing and got the better of it. Really good stuff right there. Complexity now have the one-game advantage.
Wow, and they really rolled the dice there with those lack of TPs, I have to say. That is scary. Fresh in a lot of people's minds, I think, was DAC, the classic Cloud9 no TP game, and well, could have happened there, but eHUG didn't have the intel to try and go for a base race type scenario. So looking at game number 2, we'll see if Complexity can take it 2-0 or if they move us into the ace match. I'm wearing my eHUG swag today. You wouldn't know it unless you knew it already. What a weird shirt this is. It's
cute.
I bought it because it was just like, hey, this is on Amazon? Really? All right, eHUG, I like your style.
I got one too. It's in black though. But
loser. All right. We'll be back, boys, and after this short break, game 2 right around the corner.